Welcome, everybody. We are in the final round of the Portland Regional Champion Swiss rounds, bringing back River Davis, who was on the stream earlier, versus Adrian Sigler.
Yeah, both these players are 5-1, looking for that last win that guarantees them a spot in tomorrow's Top Cut.
Yeah, do or die right here. River, as I'm sure they said earlier, coming off a Vancouver regional win just a few months ago, tournament very similar to this Portland tournament, while Adrian got top 8 in Dallas.
Yeah, so two players have already had some success this season. River in the 2017 format, Adrian in this 2018 format, but neither one with Incineroar.
Exactly, yeah, that's a big thing to point out. Even doing well earlier on, there's some translation that needs to happen there because Incineroar changes so much. I mean, that's really one of the things we've been repeating all day. It's just
you're probably sick of hearing it.
Yeah,
now,
I mean, I wouldn't blame you. It's quite intimidating for me as well.
Oh.
Just going to let that one sink in. I mean, these situations are very high pressure. It can be pretty rough to play. And I imagine that it's maybe a bit more so on River because he's been doing well all day except for when he was on stream earlier.
Yeah, took that loss to Quinn, who is also X&1 playing this round to try to guarantee himself a spot in cut. There should be 6 or 7 X1 or betters after this round, so there is a small chance that if you lose this match and end up X2, you still are playing tomorrow. But
I mean, yeah, that's a situation you don't want to deal with. You want to be X1 or higher.
A small portion of the X2s versus all of the X and 1. So, of course, this is the match now that is the most important. This is the one that what you keep playing tomorrow and keep looking for that prize money. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not quite sure how close they are to their Worlds invite. I can't imagine it's too far away. I mean, if you've won a regional, that's half your invite right there. But if you've also topped 8 a regional, you've gone a decent ways toward clinching it. So both these players, it's not like they don't care about these points. These points are obviously vital for both, and everyone likes money. You want to get that money in your pocket after playing. Like that's part of the time investment. It feels good to take that home. It's like very gratifying.
Yeah, absolutely. It's reward in its own right, separate from the just the value of it.
I mean, it adds on to the value of it, quite literally.
So, yeah, we have already seen River's team earlier in the day. It's Persian and Manectric and Gothitelle, Snorlax kind of things like we've seen. You actually talked during our lunch break recap about how you expect to see more of this and hadn't seen it yet. And since then, we've now had River on stream twice. So you're going to hear full dose of that Shadow Tag and then Intimidate support and Parting Shot support for that Snorlax.
And not just that, but to me, when you see River's team, it's very much a translation of sort of his preferences into a different format. Back in Vancouver, he had Snorlax and he had Persian, and he had all these ways in which you kind of go all in on Snorlax, right? But also ways in which you can go all in, but you don't have to do it. And you can see that in, Gothitelle, trap them, now I can set up Snorlax, I'll heal it. But you can also see that in, I have Tapu Fini, I can kind of go around this, I can do both. He has modes for it, which makes it a lot more scary, probably in more general situations.
Yeah, we have seen he's got that Gothitelle with Heal Pulse. We saw a different Heal Pulsing Trick Room setter last round with that Audino. Snorlax is just a Pokemon that, with a little bit of support for it, can go so far.
Going into team preview, we see on the left-hand side, Adrian's team of Incineroar, Tapu Koko, Gardevoir, Snorlax, Amoonguss, and Landorus Therian. While from River, once again, we see Gothitelle, Manectric, Tapu Fini, Celesteela, Snorlax, and Alolan Persian.
Yeah, so we see the Snorlax on both sides of the field, but we see the Gardevoir over there for Adrian. Gardevoir, Pokemon we saw earlier, another one we talked about extensively during that recap. Pokemon that does very well at just throwing on hyper voices, which is very valuable against these things that want to pivot around with Volt Switches and Parting Shots. Does that sound familiar to one of these teams over here?
That it does. I mean, it really, again, it's almost reminiscent of the 2015 style Gardevoir teams, too, where you see that sort of core of Gardevoir, Amoonguss, Landorus Therian, but now you have Incineroar on there that not only offers that fake-out pressure, but so much more intimidating. Gardevoir, being more frail on the physically defensive side, really appreciates that a lot.
Yeah. We do still see the Celesteela on Adrian's side, or rather on River's side. Pokemon that's kind of dropped off some since Incineroar has gotten so big, but it could be really valuable for beating that Gardevoir because it doesn't mind Hyper Voice too much, and if it does have that heavy slam, that's a big KO.
I mean, that really bites into the analysis that Hayden provided earlier on our break, where Incineroar fills this role of steals, but also very detrimental to these steals presence as well. So you kind of get into this game where I have my Fairy that doesn't like steals, but I have my Fire that loves facing them. And it's all about trying to position that into a situation where you get the most benefit from it. So, from River, we have Manectric and Persian sending out the dog and the cat, both with the ability to lower stats. Manectric often carrying Snarl, has Intimidate when it goes into its Mega Form, while Persian having that Parting Shot. While from Adrian, we see Incineroar and Gardevoir.
Yeah, and that Fur Coat gets traced, so not having to worry about Lightning Rod here on the first turn. Persian's going to be the fastest fake out here. This is a matchup we saw earlier in the day where Persian is going to be able to fake out and deny Trick Room if it wants to. All Incineroar can do is counter that fake out back with its own towards Manectric to prevent Manectric from being able to do anything this turn and kind of just create a wash turn. But then you start looking at the next turn, and suddenly that ability to prevent Trick Room, if there isn't something like the taunt option on Persian, becomes a lot more difficult. Once Trick Room does go up for that Gardevoir, you're going to be relying on like Snorlax and Celesteela and some of your slower things to bide that time. Persian and Manectric themselves become a lot less valuable.
I mean, there are definitely similar themes here outside of the Pokemon choices. In the earlier game, we saw with Yunhao, the Snorlax, or not the Snorlax, the Trick Room mode, but this time there are sort of Snorlax stops and supplements there. Snorlax, even if Adrian gets his Trick Room mode up, now I have Snorlax to sort of use it to my own advantage, while Adrian has his own Snorlax to use it to his own advantage. I think the positioning of the cats here, obviously very important.
Oh, the Incineroar and the Persian. Mm-hmm. Both Dark-type fake-out support Pokemon, both going to be really valuable over the course of this match.
Manectric going into its Mega Form, revealing that no one has decided to switch here. Just going to get that Intimidate off. Pretty helpful for trying to combat that Incineroar a little more, even though it's probably going for the fake-out this turn. Gardevoir, not really caring too much about that. It's not intimidated by this dog. Gardevoir Mega-ing in turn, Mega-ing going Mega in turn. Ready to sing its songs a little bit. Hyper Voice looking pretty good because Persian is so weak to it. But, the fake out there probably, into the Gardevoir slot. You don't want to just take that free damage for no reason as they trade fake outs on the Megas.
Yeah, so just to kind of a wash turn, those fake outs get burnt. We find out a bunch of stuff about speed that we already would have expected. Yeah. And so going to be looking forward to game 2, or to turn 2 rather, and now he's got River needs to find another way to stop these Hyper Voices from coming out, because that Hyper Voice is going to be so huge if it hits the field. Or Trick Room.
There's one of the ways to do it right there. You have Snarl, just weaken the special attack stat, and then you can have a supporting Parting Shot, get Gardevoir to a quick -2 special attack. The Parting Shot does come out, and it is into that Gardevoir slot. Manectric probably will take that pretty decently, and Persian doesn't have to worry about it since it's getting out of there.
Yeah. Now Gardevoir at -2 special attack, Incineroar at -1 attack, all of those kind of debuffs that Incineroar and Persian are so well known for, stacking up here.
Tapu Fini taking the place of Persian, something that handles Incineroar pretty well, and the Persian Tapu Fini core that we've seen today has worked pretty successfully. The Hyper Voice is going to come out, do damage to both Pokemon, but you can see that the combination of stat-lowering effects has taken its toll. Knockoff going into the Tapu Fini. What item are we revealing here? The Choice Specs. A bit annoying because you really enjoy that power, but it's something you're willing to take, really.
Yeah, maybe not as damaging as losing something like a 50% recovery berry before it goes off. Wouldn't be surprised to see Gardevoir try to get off the field now here. If you take another Snarl, those Hyper Voices really are starting to not put out much damage. At the same time, Incineroar doesn't really like being in against this Tapu Fini. May also be wanting to leave the field, so you've got to balance how you get both of these Pokemon out and into a stronger field position to kind of seize back control of this game.
Yeah, well, part of what's so difficult about that is that River just has so many options to position through Parting Shot and Volt Switch, and the Intimidate that sags there. He is able to move around the board a lot faster than Adrian, and you see the Volt Switch hitting that Snorlax, proving pretty much exactly what I'm talking about. Probably not a Persian switch, and as Gardevoir is still there, Hyper Voice very likely here. You're probably going to see the last Pokemon that River has brought, which is that Celesteela, something that can handle Gardevoir and Snorlax with pretty good... the Misty Seed. Interesting.
Yeah, so really not going to mind this Hyper Voice at all.
Scald hitting that Snorlax. Loss of Choice Specs, making that do not too much as Gardevoir decides to go for the Trick Room, make the most of its supportive prowess. trying to set up a game where Snorlax can do the damage here.
Yeah, you know, Gardevoir's own special attack being so low doesn't matter so much if it's just acting as support for Snorlax. But Celesteela on the field, you know, a pretty good answer to Snorlax.
Yeah.
Snorlax isn't going to be able to hit it too hard. Likely has Leech Seed to start whittling away at that Snorlax and keeping Celesteela healthy. But if your other slot is just getting run through for lots of KOs in the meantime, doesn't work out so well.
Incineroar returning to the field, going to weaken those attacks from the Celesteela, unless, of course, it's special. Apparently, there have been a few special Celesteela here today, but traditionally, they tend to run moves like Heavy Slam. Snorlax just going to go for the Protect. You don't need it to take damage just yet, especially when you have Fake Out in the back. Leech Seed going into the Protect. Snorlax just gives so much. Oh, and the Haze! I believe Rivers showed that earlier. Something that really just makes it easy to handle that Belly Drum Snorlax. He's not going to be able to press it very freely, at least while Tapu Fini's out.
Yeah, but at least that turn, Snorlax did protect itself, didn't actually go for the Belly Drum.
Right.
And so Haze not removing anything too critical there, just the Intimidate onto that Celesteela, getting back up to full attack. But you're right, it is going to make it even harder for Snorlax. It's not going to be able to have that big single chunks of offense that allow it to really make work of a team in just that quick 5 turns of Trick Room. Now already a couple of them burnt. Incineroar is in here against Celesteela, though. Doesn't want to take Scalds.
Celesteela getting out of there. Persian's coming back in. Looks pretty great here considering that you just get another Fake Out turn. Oh, Tapu Fini leaving as well. Manectric returning to the field, probably believing that he won't Belly Drum, having just seen that Haze. And, you know, that's where a big read can come into play. But you're going to see that Intimidate work pretty well on both of these Pokemon. The Cat Dog, once again, returning as the Fake Out, pretty much does nothing. I mean, it's nice. Oh, he does go for the Belly Drum, not caring that he's going to press Haze again because he didn't. It's a read.
Well, no, because he faked out the Tapu Fini.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even think about that.
That's definitely the dangerous part of pulling that turn, that switch on the turn that Incineroar had Fake Out available, because it was going to be able to Fake Out, prevent the Haze, get the Belly Drum, and then on the next turn, just threaten the KO onto Tapu Fini before it ever had a chance to Haze. Now, Persian, though, is on the field, going to be threatening its own Fake Out this turn. That would be the 4th turn of Trick Room gone, and then you could just double Protect, and the whole thing's gone.
Well, does Persian also generally don't have Protect. He might have a little trouble there. He does have a Celesteela switch. It's at full attack because the Belly Drum forces you max attack, so you're not at like the 5th stage. You're at full power here. The Fake Out will be helpful, but it's a little rough.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have still allowed these boosts. Snorlax is still going to be threatening so much damage. Now it's about using your Fake Outs, using your big bulky Pokemon to get out of this Trick Room and then start dealing with Snorlax. Maybe even get the Haze off. If you can get Trick Room gone and then Tapu Fini in, outspeeding, getting the Haze off, and much easier to deal with Snorlax.
Incineroar switching out for Tapu Koko, setting up the electric terrain and providing a bit of fast offense that even if Trick Room does go away, you'll have something that can immediately start picking up the pace. Fake Out landing on the Snorlax, allowing Manectric to do pretty much whatever it wants. A Volt Switch makes a lot of sense, and it does power up from it to the electric terrain, but aiming into the Tapu Koko, not the most effective use of the electric terrain, though the damage is nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a pretty big chunk of damage, probably pretty similar damage to what it would have done to Incineroar without electric terrain. And so just instead having that land onto Tapu Koko, Snorlax just going to flinch as this turn ends. So Tapu Fini going to come in and get rid of this electric terrain, though.
Yeah, I mean, pretty annoying for the Tapu Koko. The problem is that because we know that it had Choice Specs and the Trick Room isn't gone yet, Snorlax does get a free attack here, and which means that Tapu Koko very potentially will get a free attack as well, because if you attack either slot and successfully KO, there isn't a lot to mitigate Tapu Koko's offense.
Yeah, I mean, neither of these Pokemon, you can't allow a foul play from Persian towards Snorlax, so I would expect Snorlax is going to be going after Persian, but then Tapu Fini really doesn't, without its Choice Specs, threaten too much damage against these Pokemon.
Celesteela coming back out. Got to be wary about that electric offense. You don't have the Misty Seed boost this time. Return, which it targets the Tapu Fini. It knows it can't protect. No Choice Specs. Tapu Fini going down pretty easily, allowing Tapu Koko a free Volt Switch. Should do solid damage even without the electric terrain. Yeah, that's pretty decent damage. But now you have so much more positioning. It's pretty easy to bring back Incineroar, create a wash turn that benefits you more than him.
Yeah, and you're going to get electric terrain back before this game is over. That's really valuable with Celesteela and Tapu Fini as the 2 of the Pokemon left. Those are easy Thunderbolt targets at the health they're at now and with electric terrain. I think that read to KO Tapu Fini was so important because otherwise that damage that it put out could have still been pretty valuable, but it was also a huge risk. If you just KO Tapu Fini and get foul played for a KO in return, and then Volt Switch goes off, that's a turn you're much, much less happy with than how it ended up playing out. So a risky, but ended up working out for Adrian there.
And one thing that's actually very annoying for him, even though Gardevoir doesn't look the strongest in this particular turn due to the Celesteela, he really doesn't have a ton of options to deal with both Gardevoir and Tapu Koko, especially when you're staring down that Snorlax.
Yeah, I kind of love this turn here because if Persian doesn't protect itself from Hyper Voice, if it doesn't Parting Shot out or fake out the Gardevoir or do something to make sure it doesn't go down to Hyper Voice this turn, then all you have is Celesteela and Tapu Fini against Tapu Koko in the back on the other side. So you can't allow that. That's a non-starter. So not only do you have to deal with this Belly Drum Snorlax, you have to kind of guarantee to yourself this turn that Persian doesn't go down.
Double Protect. Doesn't want to play that fake out mind game. And he's going to have to rely a lot on that Manectric in the back. We do see a Z move from the Persian. I believe that River ran a very similar set back in Vancouver. The Darkinium Z having access to a big foul play, but also to the Z Parting Shot. Opting to go for the Black Hole Eclipse here, probably just trying to get as much damage as possible. Interesting to see who he targets, though it was the Gardevoir. Probably just expecting the Hyper Voice, trying to damage as much as possible so a Heavy Slam could pick up even through, or just trying to hit a switch, yes.
But then Acrobatics come out. That's got to indicate there's no Heavy Slam from that Celesteela on the other side. And so that's why he was going to have to be forced to go for the Darkinium Z plus Acrobatics just to pick up the KO onto Gardevoir. But likely Gardevoir would have outsped and gotten that Hyper Voice off even before Acrobatics could have come in and finished that KO. Now with no Dark Z available and knowing that Celesteela doesn't have Heavy Slam, there's probably no way to remove Gardevoir from the field this turn.
Foul play hitting that Snorlax. Thanks to Snorlax's own power, he isn't going to be able to take that foul play. Pretty easy to take there. But we're going to see the trade where Hyper Voice hits that Persian. And if you're Adrian, you're probably going to take that because you know that Tapu Koko's looking great. Heavy Slam is gone, so there's only Acrobatics to hit the Gardevoir, and you have to rely on Manectric to deal with the remaining team, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have to be Celesteela now. Tapu Fini, without its choice specs, going to be forced onto the field here. Pretty easy to guarantee Electric Drain if you want to. Yeah.
I think it's Manectric, isn't it?
You're right.
Yeah.
It's that Manectric that Tapu Fini went down to that return earlier. You're absolutely right. And so Manectric going to be a little more useful than Tapu Fini would have been, going to give the speed advantage to River here.
I mean, you go for the Tapu Koko instead of the Incineroar. I thought he was going to go for the fake out pressure. The Electric Terrain is beneficial in that you can remove Celesteela pretty quickly, but you do run into the risk of powering up Manectric and maybe creating a situation in which Manectric can fight the Gardevoir.
Yeah, you also, Manectric will be the first thing to move here. Can just go for a Snarl if it wants to. If Celesteela protects itself, gets another turn of Leech Seed recovery, and maybe 2 Snarls on this Tapu Koko, you start looking at Celesteela being able to take Thunderbolts, take Volt Switches, and then that Celesteela maybe can outlast this stuff, because that's what it's going to need to be, I think.
Manectric going for that overheat, trying to remove Tapu Koko, recognizing the huge threat, and he does successfully knock it out, but weakening itself in the process, making Gardevoir pretty scary since you're relying on Acrobatics. Hyper Voice, if that KOs Manectric, this is almost impossible to take back, and it does. Now Incineroar in the back, not going to have much problem at all with an Acrobatics Celesteela, considering you can intimidate it, throw out. The substitute could help. You do get the Leech Seed recovery from Gardevoir. If you can stall this out correctly, you might be able to take this out here.
Yeah, it's always so dangerous to see a Celesteela behind a substitute already with 1 Leech Seed down, especially when you don't have the ability to switch anymore. Even when you have kind of all the damage advantage. It's also interesting, Hyper Voice is not going to be able to break that substitute. It's going to have to just hit the Celesteela directly. Maybe it means you start going for Psyshock instead, so you can deal with breaking those substitutes, or you're just happy to say, I probably can't one-hit KO the substitute anyway, so I'd rather have the damage directly to Celesteela so that it's still adding up to something other than just chipping a substitute that eventually Incineroar will have to break.
Celesteela going for the fairly easy-to-see protect there. You just want as much life or HP, really, as possible. The fake-out, interesting, probably just trying to break the sub through. Just wanting to prevent him from moving, I guess. Maybe not too familiar with the way Substitute interacts with that. Celesteela is going to successfully heal a bit. This is where it becomes a bit difficult. If you can get a successful Leech Seed on the Incineroar, and depending on how these Pokemon were trained, if Celesteela is faster than the Incineroar, he can absolutely take this game back.
Yeah, I mean,
especially
the way it would work out, you'd have let's see first. This Gardevoir can protect itself, but if this Incineroar has to break the substitute, gets a Leech Seed down.
Oh, it is faster. And the thing that I just got excited about, I didn't notice how there's only 30 seconds left on Adrian's timer. River has 2 whole minutes. So even with the successful Flare Blitz there, it's going to be a little rough because now he has a lot of freedom to just press Protect Substitute.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically what it comes down to is that Celesteela can alternate, protect, and substitute for the rest of this game, and then you're saying that every Flare Blitz is a broken substitute, then you're relying on Hyper Voice to out-damage that Leech Seed recovery, and it just won't. That's not going to be how the damage plays out. And so I think even with unlimited time, this Celesteela is just in too comfortable of a position, and we don't have unlimited time. Like you said, that's 30 seconds. That's like 10 inputs. That's not, maybe you're hoping for, I don't even know what you'd be hoping for. It's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to hope that was a speed tie in some way. The Hyper Voice hitting that Celesteela, but it's not going to be nearly enough damage, though it was respectable. I will give it that. Substitute coming right back out. Even though the HP is low, you're going to heal back up, and the Flare Blitz causing that recoil just makes it so much worse for Adrian. Even if it was like something like Fire Punch or something, it would have been just better in this specific situation because it doesn't do that recoil. The substitute going away, but that's not your real goal. Your real goal was to just safely take that Leech Seed and be able to protect on the next turn.
Yeah, that Hyper Voice did a little more than I was expecting. It is going to be out-damaging this Leech Seed, I think, but you're running out of Gardevoir health. And once Gardevoir goes down, of course, you're only ever breaking substitutes. I think Gardevoir probably gets one more Hyper Voice in.
Probably.
After Celesteela protects this turn, and then that will be it for Gardevoir.
Yeah, see, it doesn't even matter how much damage the Hyper Voice does. Even if it out-damages the health recovered in one turn, it really has to do 2 turns because the protector is so free.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, no, I'm supporting you, my man.
And so, yeah, Leech Seed coming out is going to be really crucial here. No, it doesn't. Gardevoir just goes down, and so that's it.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure when your time runs out, you lose, and it's not just like the normal timer running out situation. Yes. So there's really no way to punish this. He can freely protect and sub every game, and if he had some sort of tech move on Incineroar like Taunt, he would have used it by now.
This is why it's so dangerous to have a Pokemon, your only real way to hit Celesteela slower than it and let it get that Leech Seed up. Even what should have been such an advantageous position with Incineroar and Tapu Koko and Gardevoir against Celesteela just wasn't enough. Tapu Koko was going to need to survive a little bit longer.
I mean, earlier we talked about how Rivers' team was sort of a translation from his personal style of 2017, but here we're seeing a very general trend translated into 2018. Celesteela surviving for so long was a pretty consistent thing that happened in a lot of 2017 format tournaments.
Yeah, Celesteela just so sticky to the field with that Steel typing and Leech Seed, kind of like we've seen Ferrothorn in the past, but Ferrothorn never had the position to be able to outspeed and substitute before things moved.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. A lot of people will also opt and be very happy to have a slower and trained Incineroar. You don't usually need that speed if it means that your survivability is that much better.
Especially with likely Trick Room on that Gardevoir.
Yeah.
You're going to be playing for that a lot of the time. I have to go back to the turn you mentioned. You expected to see Incineroar enter the field, turn Tapu Koko enter the field. I think that would have really changed the course of this game.
I agree.
Because there would have been no way that Manectric just outspeeds and KOs the Incineroar the way it did that Tapu Koko, and so then you're going to have actually all 3 Pokemon up against Celesteela. And then if you have both Thunderbolts and Flare Blitzes coming down, doesn't matter the substitutes, doesn't matter the Leech Seed, especially when you can like start doing things like Volt Switch after getting Leech Seeded, making sure none of your 3 Pokemon ever go down. He just changes the course of this game. But instead, that Tapu Koko hit the field, took Overheat, got KO'd, and the rest is still happening history.
Adrian forfeiting there, realizing that there's really nothing he can do, sticking out for just a bit, probably trying to gather his thoughts. And it's a rough situation because I think that it's sort of hard to adapt to when you're going into game 2. It looked like he had the situation, and I really do think that if he'd gone Incineroar over Tapu Koko toward the end there, he would have been in a much better position. Manectric wouldn't have been able to KO anything without a critical hit. And instead, he kind of lost Koko prematurely and was forced into this awkward Celesteela position.
Yeah, I think so. And so I think that is kind of easy adjustment. You look at how that end game played out, and you just say, well, I won't let that happen again.
Yeah, I think you bring the same thing. It's just demoralizing.
Yeah. Because otherwise I don't really see much that changes. His best 2 answers for Celesteela are that Incineroar and that Tapu Koko, which were 2 of the last 3 Pokemon around for him in that game. On the other hand, on Riverside, you kind of had to feel very fortunate you ended up winning that game. That should not have been a game that you ended up winning. And so you've got to maybe look for adjustments despite winning it, try to find some other way to handle these Pokemon. You got a lot of really valuable debuffs with Persian and Manectric, but it came a point in the game where they weren't enough. They weren't enough because they weren't doing the damage themselves. They therefore weren't really taking Snorlax off the field. They weren't able to take Hyper Voices. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Gothitelle
I
and
wouldn't be
the
surprised
Snorlax
either, yeah.
from Riverside.
Or maybe even Gothitelle Celesteela.
Sure, just try to.
I mean, that combo absolutely despises Incineroar. But if you, we just saw a situation where the two biggest counters, I mean, it didn't even have Heavy Slam, which usually does pretty solid damage to Tapu Koko. Acrobatics is doing probably nothing, I would imagine. One adjustment I would like to see from River a bit quickly, I think that Tapu Fini could have had a bit more impact on the last game. I feel like instead he could have just pressed Haze again just to be very safe, because bringing in Persian made it so that you had a whole other fake-out chance to sort of reset your position.
It'll be interesting to see. Adrian did end up knocking off the Tapu Fini's choice specs, made it a lot easier for it to go between Haze and damaging attacks.
No, he probably took that knockoff with glee.
Yeah.
We were seeing the exact same leads here. Both players acknowledging that what they brought was fine and just trying to change the situation a little bit. No Lightning Rod on the Gardevoir, making it a bit easier on River in the early turns.
Yeah, don't have to worry about some like obscure Gardevoir stays regular just to try to get your Volt Switch stuck there. So instead, probably going to see the same wash turn that we saw last game, unless somebody thinks they can take advantage of kind of the expected play, get a free switch in, kind of change the momentum on this turn that it would otherwise just be a wash.
I mean, and when you actually get into those situations where you can grab momentum from a sort of neutral turn, it can turn really big really fast. That's an avalanche of a game right there.
That kind of play to me would be like Incineroar switches to Amoonguss while Gardevoir protects. If Amoonguss is a pivot that Adrian
we are seeing Incineroar switch. Oh, but it's Tapu Koko, not Amoonguss.
We'll have to see what happens, whether Gardevoir is protecting itself. There's kind of a risk here that it ends up taking a Electric Train boosted Volt Switch.
Manectric going Mega, powering up. Doesn't need that Lightning Rod for any situation. It's not going to be Thunderbolt Gardevoir. And you want a situation where Snarl, which is the likely move you're going to press, or maybe Volt Switch, but either move is stronger in this Mega form. The Intimidate hitting two special attackers is not a big deal. Gardevoir just going for the Protect, trying to get a better situation for himself to start pressing Hyper Voice. As the Fake Out hits the Gardevoir, don't want to take that extra damage for no reason.
Yeah, and that Snarl is going to land into Tapu Koko. Get a little weaker.
I mean, it's way better than it hitting the Incineroar.
For River, for sure, yeah. So maybe Adrian didn't gain what he was hoping to out of this switch to Tapu Koko.
Right.
Is going to be threatening maybe a Dazzling Gleam against Persian, but especially if another Snarl comes out before Tapu Koko attacks, that really won't be too much damage, even with Persian's relatively low special attack and its weakness to Fairy. We expect Parting Shot maybe versus come out, try to weaken Gardevoir and get Persian out for something that can better handle this matchup.
Gardevoir going Mega. I'm very much expecting another Snarl. You want Koko weaker, and you want Gardevoir weaker as well. It's it's very possible that you can have both Pokemon be at -2 special attacking stages, which is just perfect for pretty much any setup you would want here. Gardevoir and Koko both successfully hit by the Snarl. The Koko is faster than the Persian going for the Thunderbolt, but thanks to the two Snarls, not even going to do 50% as the Parting Shot goes into that Gardevoir slot, successfully creating a very much weakened pair on Adrian's side.
Yeah, -2 special attack stages to both, like you mentioned, means this Hyper Voice, when it does come out against whatever this Persian switches to, plus that Manectric, shouldn't do too much, and could be a Trick Room, but that could be dangerous for Gothitelle hitting the field.
That is devastating, because now you've trapped both these very much weakened Pokemon, and he has a whole other turn to press Snarl.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see how this Tapu Koko Volt Switch out of as fast as it can, try to get some damage down, but does not want to be in at -3 special attack. Gardevoir is not going to have that opportunity, though. No way for it to attack and get itself off the field. So going to be stuck here at these drop special attack stages, but maybe it can still do something useful. If it can get Trick Room up as Tapu Koko Volt switches to Snorlax, that's definitely a position you can play from.
Manectric going for Snarl instead of Volt Switch, very satisfied in trying to lock down. I mean, they're so low. The Hyper Voice is going to do practically nothing, and the Volt Switch, not only weak on its own merit, but it's more of a positioning tool at this point. You don't want to be that weak. You want something that can kind of reset your momentum here.
Yeah, I mean, still a decent chunk of damage against that Gothitelle Hyper Voice, and these weakened attacks will start to add up, but not very quickly.
The Incineroar is something that threatens Gothitelle pretty well. It is nice, just you have that fake out pressure, but you still are kind of just trapped in there with Gothitelle. The Hyper Voice is doing, somewhat decent damage on the Manectric slot, but the Trick Room comes out. Manectric probably not huge on the situation anymore. Probably going to switch out here.
Yeah, but going to have to switch for real rather than Volt Switch because now that Trick Room is out. I don't know if that Gothitelle was expecting Trick Room from Gardevoir's side also and trying to double up on Trick Rooms and remove it from the field, because really all that's done is make Incineroar kind of more comfortable in this position. Gothitelle can't do much to it. It's threatening knockoffs there, and rather than Manectric being able to land a big Electric Terrain Volt Switch, it's just going to get attacked first.
Gothitelle going for the taunt. He doesn't want that Trick Room to be reversed, and you don't see Manectric hard switch out. I fully expect a Volt Switch here, but knockoff being able to remove Gothitelle, hopefully River comfortable with that, because I imagine that the Snorlax setup is coming, and Volt Switch hitting the Incineroar. Pretty solid damage thanks to the opponent's Electric Terrain. He's now got 2 Pokemon coming in for free.
And Gardevoir must be Trick Rooming here, or it would have moved before that Manectric, and so it's going to be failing Trick Room into the taunt here. So a good call to taunt to get Snorlax in. Kind of a risky play, though, because if Gardevoir had Hyper Voiced now at full power against that Manectric, it might have been close to the KO.
Maybe, but I think you're pretty comfortable taking that just because it's so weakened at this point. The real problem is that he's now able to switch and potentially reset the situation. It did look a little rough, but now that you have all your resources fully available to you, you can kind of weather the storm here a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Gothitelle was eliminated, and that was kind of more that happened than happened for River during those turns where those Pokemon were locked in at low special attack stages. I don't think took very great advantage of it and didn't get enough damage down. Now Adrian's got to feel like his team is pretty healthy, has to find a way to deal with the Snorlax in Trick Room. It doesn't even have boosts yet. That's something you can definitely deal with.
I mean, seeing the switch there, knowing that Gardevoir is so weakened and taunted, it's basically a free setup, and there's no way to reverse the Trick Room from this point. Adrian going for the double switch, just trying anything to better his position, sending in Snorlax and Tapu Koko, but Tapu Koko so slow thanks to the Trick Room fake out, hitting the Incineroar slot because it was the only thing that could really do any real damage to the Snorlax as he gets that free belly drum.
Yeah, going to be eating that berry, getting back up to 100% health, but sitting at +6 attack. Persian, though, not really offering much support here. Got the really nice fake out there, but just all it did was enforce an Incineroar switch. Not going to be handling either of these Pokemon, so at least one of them will get to attack this turn. And if Snorlax just hits into a Protect for its own efforts, and
that could be rough. But one little fun situation here is you can attack the opposing Snorlax because it doesn't really threaten your Fur Coat Persian or your own Snorlax. And because Trick Room's up, Persian now moves before Tapu Koko. Electric Terrain is gone. Parting Shot's going to be pretty nice here.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. If without that Electric Terrain and with Parting Shot outspeeding and dropping Tapu Koko's attacks before it can attack, that full health Snorlax really doesn't have to worry then what a -1 special attack Tapu Koko does outside of Electric Terrain.
So it's still very difficult. I wouldn't be surprised to see an Incineroar switch in, but I think you kind of want to preserve that and create a situation where you can get it in safely. Snorlax on Adrian's side going for the Protect, realizing that it's more an obvious target, but the frustration just hitting that Tapu Koko just smacking it right in the face. Out of here. Whittle down those resources, whittle down his ability to switch. Foul play very safely going into the Snorlax, because if he tried to do a regular attack, you would still do fine damage, but if he tried to opposing Belly Drum, that's a free KO.
Yeah, so it's a good way to prevent that Belly Drum by KOing after it goes up. Incineroar, though, now comes in, going to be providing fake-out support. If this Snorlax on the other side doesn't have Protect, this could be a valuable turn to get some damage down.
It could. I imagine that you probably go for the raw damage here as opposed to the setup, because once again, a foul play from Persian could be devastating, but if you don't fake out the Snorlax, it's picking up a free KO, even at its 5th stage as opposed to its 6th. Fake out, hitting the Snorlax. Okay, so are we going to see the raw damage? He does go for the raw damage, just hitting the return, trying to whittle down that Snorlax, even though it's still at very good health. Parting Shot, weakening him even further, going for the Snorlax because he realizes that Snorlax kind of values just the raw damage output as opposed to the setup in this situation.
Yeah, but maybe risking just losing that Parting Shot if Snorlax does come across an opportunity to Belly Drum coming up. But now this Intimidate stacks on, too. That's a lot of attack drops.
Yeah, I mean, you're at -2 Snorlax, and you're at -1 Incineroar, and we just saw that even with a full attack, it didn't really do much to River's own Snorlax.
Now Trick Room does expire. Manectric's going to be the thing moving first, but this Incineroar will have a chance to attack Snorlax before Snorlax is able to get off another big Belly Drum boosted attack. Manectric likely to just Volt Switch out and reset Intimidate, right?
I would think so. And it's pretty safe to do because you do want something that can outspeed that Tapu Koko just in case. The removal of Trick Room for River isn't that bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something where now he's more relying on the bulk of his Snorlax. He's dropped the attack stats on both of these Pokemon. Snorlax could maybe go for a recycle here and try to just stay healthy rather than relying on speed.
Volt Switch whittling down Snorlax, wary of the possibility of Snorlax being able to take a frustration due to the Intimidate. The Volt Switch just trying to reduce those odds as Persian returns to the field. Flare Blitz from Incineroar shouldn't do that much damage to either target here, but he does go for the Snorlax, possibly hoping for the burn chance. Snorlax at about 45%, and the opposing one going for the return, hitting the Snorlax again, but just the recycle make that turn basically irrelevant as Persian comes in safely, and now you get the reset of the fake-out pressure.
Yeah, now the fake-out pressure is on that Persian side. It is free to fake out, maybe parting shot on the next turn, and you get that double parting shot plus Intimidate again. You start to see how these things stack up. Well, meanwhile, Snorlax just keeps itself healthy with that recycle and mitigates everything that Snorlax and Incineroar are able to do. I really think Adrian needs to prioritize targeting down something in the other slot and breaking this chain.
Adrian trying to preserve that Incineroar. Oh, going for the double protect. Doesn't even want to play that fake-out mind game, but you might create a situation in which he... I mean, even with the burn, it's not something you mind too much. It's basically just the shifting to the next turn, sort of a wash turn. You probably will see the parting shot come out. I imagine on the Incineroar, it slightly has stronger attack than the Snorlax right now, just due to how the stages have been working and the positioning that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and Quash instead, though.
Oh, yes! How could I forget? Even when the Trick Room runs out, you have something that sort of makes the speed order irrelevant thanks to that Quash. The target will always go last. So Incineroar moving after that Snorlax, enabling the KO, forcing Tapu Koko to come back out.
Yeah, I think that might have been a turn where the Snorlax on Adrian's side needed to belly drum.
Yeah.
Needed to match those attack boosts and have a way to really threaten a lot of damage.
Oh, it's Gardevoir, not Tapu Koko.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
So that Gardevoir coming out, just another target for Quash plus return. Yeah. If this Snorlax on Adrian's side had also boosted up, then you start looking at, well, if you do Quash and KO my Gardevoir, I can exchange the KO for your Snorlax, and now I'm the one with the Snorlax.
Right.
And I can probably make it through these two Pokemon, but with that Snorlax still so low in attack, I just don't see how this is possible.
Protecting the Gardevoir, very wary of the Quash double tap. Once again, seeing the Snorlax go for its own belly drum, pretty much what you said, realizing that this is his chance to do it, and he kind of needs to strike now. Maybe trying to force a situation where if we know that his Snorlax has been moving first. If you can Hyper Voice and maneuver around it, which is very possible because of the speed tiers here, he can take this game back.
Yeah, he does get the prediction Quash and return goes in, so not seeing the opportunity to belly drum on the previous turn, but takes advantage of it on this turn on the second attempt at Quash. Me being caught by surprise by it the first time, now has matched the attack boost from Snorlax, and this becomes a much more difficult decision for River. Which Pokemon do you try to target down?
Yeah.
I think you really need to get rid of that Snorlax before it can attack. So do you Quash plus return there and just give up Persian? But we've already also seen protect on that Snorlax. If you try to double up into Snorlax and it protects this turn, and you've done that 2 turns in a row, that's the kind of plays that lose you the momentum, lose you all the advantage you had.
Quash coming back out, targeting the Gardevoir because he knows that it just attacked. And it's pretty safe to do because either target creates sort of a... Oh, yeah. Just going for... Oh, man.
If that had gone into the other Snorlax, this game would have been over. But instead, it goes into that Persian, gets the KO there, and both Snorlaxes are still on the field.
Yeah, that was interesting, I'll go. That was an interesting play because I think your bigger worry there is definitely the Snorlax. Now, he has to target the Snorlax here, but now you give Manectric all this time to sort of whittle you down.
But the other thing is we don't know if Adrian Snorlax is just faster. It may be. It's gone first, I think, a couple times.
I think so as well.
And so if it is just faster and that Intimidate wasn't enough to prevent return from KOing Snorlax, Manectric's not going to do this damage in 2 turns.
But, Snorlax has the very bulky. It could do it. And, targeting that Persian wasn't so bad, really.
Yeah, no, looking back at it, it prevented that foul play. I think it was the right decision.
No, that's why he's here and I'm not, I suppose. Now it's kind of up to Manectric to...
No,
I mean it's...
what do you do? Even a crit switch doesn't KO, and you can't paralyze. Overheat?
Yeah, I mean, it'll do more damage, I guess. Oh, no, it can't burn. Oh, okay,
even with the critical hit, Snorlax hangs on, going to be able to land this return and take the game.
Okay. What a game that was. That was quite amusing. I mean, my entire thoughts of that were completely changed because I thought Tapu Koko was there over Gardevoir the whole time. Misremembering what frustration KO'd earlier. If it was Tapu Koko, Manectric can pretty easily come in, press overheat, and it's a situation not to worry about too much. But Gardevoir, especially so healthy and threatening that Persian, just did way better job enabling Adrian to take the game too.
Yeah, and finding an opportunity to belly drum so late in the game.
Yeah.
No support for it, just clicking it, hoping you're targeting my partner, and going to continue to target my partner while I can start dealing out a lot of damage with that belly drum boosted Snorlax. Both games 1 and 2 have seen the player who was leading the entire time, who's controlling the fate of the game, it seemed like, end up against something they just couldn't deal with. It was that Celesteela staying on the field too long in game 1, and then the Snorlax suddenly being boosted and too threatening in game 2.
I mean, it's been so back and forth. It's probably the most intense set I've seen all day. You see River locking in immediately, probably sticking to his guns there, going with the Snorlax as opposed to the Celesteela win con, which I like a lot just because I think that River realizes that Celesteela as a win con was sort of problematic in game 1, even if it worked out for him in the end.
Yeah, I mean, he needed to both have the Leech Seed and the substitute up going into that matchup against Incineroar. Missing either one would have made it not enough, and that's only after Tapu Koko was down. So I think Snorlax plus Persian and Manectric is going to be the more consistent thing, but he's going to need to find a way to get rid of that Snorlax sooner and not allow it to get its own boosts up. We saw him earlier in the game preventing those boosts by targeting foul plays in that direction, making sure that if it gets the boost, foul play just comes in KO. But also has to find a way to do that later in the game when Trick Room's not up and you have to attack before the boost happens.
I mean, I'm interested to see if River decides to bring Gothitelle back. While it was nice to shadow tag those weakened special attackers at first, it ended up not having a bigger role as it could have thanks to Koko just volt switching out and then Incineroar picking up a following knockoff KO.
Yeah, could be a good adjustment there.
From River, we see the leads of Persian and Snorlax, maybe trying to just push a Snorlax sweep right away as we see Tapu Koko and Gardevoir as the answering leads from Adrian. Pretty interesting to play with the idea that he might have gone for both win cons and had the Snorlax and the Celesteela. Gluttony on the Trace, not going to matter too much there.
No, don't expect this Mega Gardevoir to be holding a berry anytime soon. Yeah, it's interesting to see that this is the first time I haven't seen Persian next to Manectric. Maybe that means there's no Manectric there.
Maybe.
Those Intimidates were really valuable, though.
Oh, totally.
And that speed to get over Tapu Koko has been really valuable also. So
yeah.
It would definitely be something that's missed by River, but maybe worth it.
I mean, it could be in the back as well, even though I do like Manectric in the lead slot a lot more. Just being able to Mega early and having that speed control from the get-go is a pretty nice thing to have. Gardevoir Mega going for its Mega form. No switches there, so probably the fake out on it to prevent the Hyper Voice, but then Tapu Koko. The double fairy lead is so good because you pressure Persian so much. Persian deciding to fake out the Tapu Koko, risking that Hyper Voice, and it does. We do see the song being sung. Persian for more of a siren song there, I suppose, sort of an ode to Persian as it gets knocked out pretty early, whereas throughout the first 2 games you saw it do so much in terms of positioning. Snorlax going for the immediate belly drum. Even if he brings in something like a Gothitelle, Gardevoir can now go for a reverse Trick Room. He has a lot more options here.
Yeah, this is a really devastating turn 1, it seems like, for River to me. You give up Persian, you give up those quash plays, those parting shots, that fake out support. Persian has been so valuable. And now you do have the Snorlax with its boost, but it's not that healthy, only like 70% health. That's relatively low for after a belly drum for Snorlax. And then no speed control. I don't think Manectric has the special attack to KO either of those Pokemon before they move. It's going to be wanting to snarl and weaken their stats. But Tapu Koko and Gardevoir may be able to put out more damage in their recycle anyway.
See the Dazzling Gleam from Tapu Koko. You don't want to bite into the Lightning Rod as he doesn't Mega, just goes for the raw Snarl, trying to create a situation in which you can redirect Tapu Koko, but still weaken his special attackers. Probably going to see a recycle from the Snorlax because it's become so much weaker due to those snarls. And Manectric still manages to hang on. The frustration coming out, not going for the cycle, just trying to get the raw damage as Gardevoir goes down pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty valuable to get rid of that Gardevoir there.
Oh, absolutely.
It's definitely a bigger damage threat. It's going to be interesting to see you may be forced to Mega Evolve Manectric next turn because it would just go down to a Dazzling Gleam before being able to move. But now Incineroar out there going to have fake out support also. This damage is adding up really quickly on River's side of the field.
Yeah, and I don't think the fake out pressure has looked so good in this set so far because now you prevent either one from attacking, and you shouldn't have any problem KOing the one of your choice. Dazzling Gleam easily picks it up on Manectric, while Electric Move can easily pick it up on Snorlax. But the fake out pressure sort of mitigates the dangers for Adrian.
Yeah, Snorlax leaving the field with its boost.
Tapu Fini just creating a misty terrain situation, probably protecting the Manectric, I imagine, just trying to just carve out some kind of positioning from the rough little spot you're in. You do see the Mega Form come out, ditching that Lightning Rod for the Intimidate, trying to weaken that Incineroar a little bit. We know it's choice specs Feeney. Maybe he can dish out enough damage here to turn the tables.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult. Such low health bars on both Snorlax and Manectric.
Just letting, the fake out hitting the Tapu Fini slot as opposed to the Manectric slot. Volt switching the Incineroar in response, bringing that Snorlax back out. But, it's so weakened that even with the the random damage will still be
I think it's
annoying.
Almost like sacrificial of the Snorlax at this point. You're trying to identify Manectric and Tapu Fini as the keys with no boosts, no speed control, and this low of health and no berries. Snorlax isn't going to be doing too much.
It's pretty difficult because he is in such a spot that even trying to press Recycle might not work successfully. You might see the sacrificial play from Manectric, try to get another Intimidate out while you fire off the Muddy Water, potentially KO the Incineroar, do big damage to Coco. But then, having Manectric be so fast in the back would be great.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting here because if that Muddy Water does come out and just KO Incineroar and do a lot of damage to Tapu Koko, that's the kind of big single turn of damage that can kind of even the balance of this game.
Yeah. Snorlax is going to retreat, bringing Manectric back out. Final Howl there. The Intimidate not mattering too much on that Tapu Koko, but the Incineroar is the real target, trying to open up a path for Tapu Fini to do something, just anything really. The Z move from the Tapu Koko, I imagine that picks up a KO regardless of target here, but it's pretty obvious that it's going into the Tapu Fini slot in my mind.
Yeah, that's the big damage source now, right? Even if you allow this Recycle, you have the damage to beat the Snorlax since it has no boost.
And that big burst of electricity is going to be hitting that Tapu Fini. Even without the terrain, it doesn't need it. Doing enough damage to remove it from the field, allowing an Incineroar to pick up the KO on the Manectric slot as it's so weakened. Even the Intimidates wouldn't matter at this point. You have Snorlax against the world, but there's no way it can recycle.
Yeah, this game has been so different. We saw the other first two so methodical, piece by piece, things falling into place. This one was just one bad turn, one bad first turn for River, and that chain of parting shots and fake outs was broken, and things just fell apart really quickly once that happened.
It's, I think that's part of why he played so fast and loose in the first turn. He played so methodical in the previous games that he thought, well, maybe he won't expect me to make such a risky play and I'll get so much momentum going off of it, but it didn't work out successfully. We do see the Volt Switch hitting in the Incineroar out, opening up the possibility for him to recycle here, but even then the fake out belly drum pressure, knowing that the other Snorlax is faster, should end the game regardless.
Yeah, that kind of knowledge now is how things change in Game 3. When you know that your Snorlax is faster than the other Snorlax, you don't really care now about that Snorlax's health bar because you know that fake out plus belly drum plus return are the next three things that are going to happen, and that's too much for that Snorlax.
Yeah, it's just too much. River played hard, and unfortunately all his stream games today were his only losses, going into that X2 slot, hoping that he can just kind of hang on and be the X2 that makes top 8, as Adrian guarantees his top 8 spot here in Portland.
Yeah, really well played. Uses that Gardevoir to a lot of effect, just dishing out those hyper voices, and like we talked about during the lunch recap, not worrying so much about all these chips and intimidates and cycling, and you're just consistently putting out hyper voice and making your opponent handle it.
Another interesting little tidbit here is that because we know that Yun Hao was 6-0 going into the round, he's also made top cut, guaranteed, even if he lost. So we have at least 2 Gardevoir and Incineroar combos going into our top 8.
Yeah, so could be the new combo of the day here.
Yeah, pretty interesting considering that Metagross, something that really gives Gardevoir a hard time, has just fallen so much that it allowed Gardevoir to rise up here.
Yeah.
That I'm still pretty shocked, I'm going to go with. I hope people aren't like, Volt Switch, he's shocked. But it was just so back and forth the whole time. It's kind of hard to collect your bearings, really, even just as a viewer.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think, can be part of how games like that Game 3 can happen, because it's just a blitzkrieg suddenly when you're having these really methodical games, and instead suddenly big offenses coming out. You got to deal with it really quickly. It's not these slow piece by piece, and you can be out of your control way faster than you realize.
The devastating part there really is I think, game 2 more than game 3. He was making a risk, and I think he was well aware of it in game 3, something he was probably comfortable. I mean, he's probably upset, but you at some level have some comfort making plays like that. Whereas in game 2, your Snorlax situation was looking very dominant, something you should have taken, and then you lost that and lose the next game afterwards. It's pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, I think there were safer plays that probably could have been made, both on the turn that Quash and Return went into Gardevoir protecting, and on the turn where they actually KO'd Gardevoir, to kind of guarantee yourself that Snorlax doesn't manage to make this comeback. And so Snorlax was left alone on those 2 turns, and that ended up being the mistake that cost him game 2.
Absolutely. And, I mean, that's nothing to take away from Adrian. He played to his outs, and it worked very well. He managed to get the perfect timing for that Snorlax belly drum in game 2.
All right, well, we will take a very tiny break.
Yeah, after a doozy like that, you need a little break.
And then we will be back with the full commentary team to go over that top 8, which we already have in hand.